Well, hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do something just a little bit different and do something I've been threatening to do for a while, which is talk about economics. Just kidding, it's not going to be that bad. In fact, I've even found a way to roll a popular and one of my favorite television shows into this whole thing, King of the Hill. And basically this video is for all of you out there who in one way or another, possibly for being a musician, most likely, are a freelancer or some type of person who's trying to get hired to do a job. And so this is basically directly applicable advice to that. I learned it directly from King of the Hill. I suppose one caveat addition to that is that this is assuming that your business has a great product to begin with and that you have enough of a ratio of overhead to customers that you can you're not like desperate for work. So this isn't going to be something that you're able to notice right away when you get into it. It's something that in the end actually does work. So that's the reason that I wanted to share with you guys, because especially in the last few years of seeing our business grow, I've noticed this happening and I'm like, that's crazy. Hank Hill was absolutely right. So to tell you what this trick is, I'm just going to summarize the episode. So I'll put the actual title of the episode up here if you want to go looking for it, some screen grabs. But basically, the plot of the episode takes place at Strickland Propane, and there's a new guy at work who's really pushing sales, or maybe it's not a new guy, but it's Bobby at work. And there's like a competition that month to see who's going to sell the most tanks. So Bobby is kind of shadowing his dad at work, and he notices that there's this guy who will just say anything to sell whatever to the customer. And at first, this seems like a winning strategy because the other guy is first on the leaderboard, and it kind of seems like Bobby's losing respect for his father. Now, at one point in this, a customer comes in, and the first scene is meant to show kind of how silly and like overly playing things by the book Hank Hill is. So the customer comes in, he has some questions, Hank shows him around, and in the initial scene, they're playing it up. He's kind of being almost a little too dismissive compared to how you would do this in real life, but he's just taking the guy's information and he's like, okay, you need to learn about what you actually want in order to be able to buy the best thing for me, in order for me to best help you. So he sends him off with a brochure, classic line about talking with a trusted friend or family member, and that's sort of it. So a lot of the other chaos of the episode will happen, and then eventually, right at the 11th hour, what happens is all the customers of the salesman who was just saying whatever have had problems because they didn't get the right product. So they're coming in demanding their money back. They're having to refund. And right at the last second, the customer that Hank sent away with the brochure comes back and he has a surprise massive order. Hank wins. Moral of the story, don't be a pushy salesman. Have a good product, know about it, and help your customer find that best thing. Now, it's a little cheesy, and of course, it's played for laughs in the context of the show, but I swear, King of the Hill taught me more life lessons than most other TV shows, which also makes it ironic that it's the show that my dad would come into the room most and be like, what are you watching? Hear something raunchier in it. But no, that show had a great balance of realism and humor, and this episode is really no exception. So one thing that I've found, so as we're setting up our business, we have to be very, very conscientious about time and effort and energy. And that's a lot of how we end up pricing our service as a duo for hire, primarily at weddings, private events. And, we know that we're offering a good service. We know that, we can learn the songs that you need to. We're going to show up. We know how weddings go. And we have the tech. We got you taken care of, whatever you've got. And so often, and more often, I've noticed, somebody will come and, they're just, feeling out. They're trying to find a quote. They're trying to find, just some information. Send them on their way with maybe a song list and our price. And again, this has happened more recently. They'll come back, a lot of them. They'll have looked around, they'll have shopped around, and then it's like, you know what? These guys are the ones I want. Gonna pay the price. Not like that. But I'm just, they've decided as an informed decision. And this is something that I learned because originally when I was trying to sell my services as a cellist, I was trying to use every, salesman sort of thing that I had in my head at least. And I know that sales can be one of those words that kind of turns people off. I don't love to think of myself as a salesman, of course. But if you are selling your services, you're in sales. And what is good sales? Good sales is being a personable, knowledgeable, intermediary between the person and the product that they're buying. And in a perfect world, the salesman facilitates the ideal purchase of the buyer. Now, obviously, there's like a lot of scummy sales techniques, and with economies of scale, a lot of this stuff doesn't work. So specifically, I think this technique does work in the context of a small family-owned-ish, Strickland Propane in the show, or musicians trying to sell their services. And here's what I realized about trying too hard to sell what you're doing, is that that's the exact same thing that people who don't have any skill do. If you only have the con skill, then sure, you're going to be like flamboyant about what you can do, and you're going to try to kind of rush people into it because, maybe they're going to change their mind and you want to close the sale. So when that's not my primary skill, does it make sense for me to compete with those people, the con artists, in the same way, especially when a lot of normal people realize that that's a scummy technique, that's a red flag, and then they might even think that I don't have the skill that's the actual skill that I spend most of my time working on in the first place. So, especially for that reason, it just doesn't make sense to be in any way pushy when you're trying to sell. And I think this also really applies if you're a composer or if you're doing remote recording with the cello, anything where it's an actual product that you're kind of getting. And a specific concert for a private event is a product. We started pricing by the event instead of by the hour because that is a better reflection of the effort and specific needs of the client and blocking the time that actually really goes into every gig. So that's another one I would encourage you to think about, that you're actually selling a product when you're selling your concert performance. It's not the same as selling your time. And that is a related point that I think I'm going to make in a video after this because it is its own separate point. But if you're interested in how your labor, the value of your labor actually works, I would encourage you to watch that video that I'm planning to record right now. It'll be a continuation of this. But to wrap up this one, I think this is just a winning sales technique, and it's not one of those things that I was consciously trying, but it is one of those things that was subconsciously in the back of my mind for years, having watched this show. And I think it's so amazing to watch it bloom, especially as I actually managed to create that high quality product that's worth somebody coming back to after they have learned more about what they actually want. So I wanted to share that with you guys, especially because at first you might not see that. Stick with it, focus on what you can actually do. Here's the basics of economics. If you are working on a skill that people already want to pay for, and you get your skill to a competitive level and you price yourself competitively, then you'll get work. And a lot of people overcomplicate that, but that is the core of what it is to enterprise as a person. So if you want to learn more about how you actually create the value from that work, watch the next video. But for now, let me know what you think in the comments of Hank Hill's general advice, what you think of this advice, and if you have any other supplementary thoughts that could help people as they're trying to monetize their skill, whatever it is. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.